made to cover up our XXXY shirts at this game and told us we had to leave.
And this is for the girl.
Or cover our shirts.
Guys, the WNBA situation keeps getting crazier. Hey guys, welcome back to the show, your home for independent and nonpartisan commentary and analysis on politics, media, internet culture, and more. We got another crazy story from the wild world of the WNBA today, because this whole culture war over trans athletes has kind of consumed the WNBA, even though there aren't any trans athletes in the WNBA, because of a few things that happened. One was the Indiana Fever, I believe, player Sophie Cunningham coming out and saying she thinks, but that crazy take, trigger warning, female sports should only be for biological females, and a bunch of people got extremely mad. Then a bunch of WNBA coaches and players started virtue signaling about how they would welcome trans athletes and all this stuff. And so then people kept pushing about it, because it's kind of absurd to build a whole career around female sports while not believing in female sports. But of course, everyone has a right to an opinion, so people have been showing up to WNBA games on either side of this issue. Now, a couple of people who just showed up to one were essentially escorted out of the building because they were asked to cover up their deeply offensive, horrific hate crime t-shirts that said XXXY. Like as in chromosomes, from the sports brand that supports female sports being only for biological females, and they refused to cover up their shirts, so they actually had to leave the game. It's now just caused another saga in this crazy ongoing drama that's all just kind of absurd if you ask me. Anyway, let's watch the Fox News report breaking it down and speaking to the mother and daughter who had this experience this week. Let's watch.
One mom and daughter say they paid roughly $1,000 each to see the Fever play Atlanta over the weekend. But during overtime, Gateway Center Arena staff approached them, and suddenly their T-shirts were a problem.
We were made to cover up our XXXY shirts at this game.
Wait, are you serious?
Yes.
They gave us shirts.
They gave us T-shirts
For mine.
during overtime and told us we had to leave.
And this is for the girl.
Or cover our shirts, and we did nothing. Like we were just sitting there. I didn't make signs.
But wouldn't you know it, another fan was wearing a pro-trans shirt, and the arena seemed a lot more enthusiastic about that message.
She's the one who told on us.
Because she was made to zip up her jacket.
What a dork.
So she also had to zip up her jacket?
But I think that's, I don't.
But that's too. She shouldn't have to.
But they put her shirt on the Jumbotron.
Here with more is Casey and Annie Thomason, who were told to cover up their shirts. All right, Casey, what exactly did the security say was so offensive about that cute, adorable shirt?
Well, he didn't know what was offensive about it. He said he didn't even understand. But since someone told on us and said that they were offensive, we had to, cover up, put on our Atlanta Dream shirts instead of our XXXY.
Well, Annie, the wellness shirt, I'm sure that's all well and good, but I think the other one's a lot cooler. Annie, I mean, okay, you're a kid, all right? You're there having fun. Your mom is really generous to get you those tickets. You better have given her a big hug and kiss for that. So awesome that you're there. And yeah, I mean, that's an unbelievable gift. So you're there with your mom having fun. What goes through your mind as a young woman supporting female athletes that this would even come up?
I was flabbergasted. It's the first time I've ever experienced anything like that, and I had no words except who's offended by a t-shirt at this point?
Yeah. And who is offended by science?
No,
That's what we asked the security guard.
Poor guy.
So there's so much about this, I hardly even know where to begin. But imagine paying $1,000 for tickets to a WNBA game and then having it ruined because of this ridiculous overreach, cracking down on your deeply offensive t-shirts that just say XXXY. It's not even like there's profane language or slurs or something like that. Although I guess to the most delusional people, they probably consider genetics a slur. And it's crazy too, because it's like the foundation of what the WNBA is. It's in the name. W, as in woman, as in adult human female, is all they are asserting support of. And yet that got them escorted out of the game because they didn't back down. And I do respect that. I do respect when people stand on business. They could have just covered it up to go along, but I wouldn't have done that either. If it's really important to you, you should stand on business. But it's so ridiculous. If you or your child spent years growing up on social media and experienced serious mental health issues, you should hear this. Recently, a jury ordered Meta and YouTube to pay millions for their role in designing and promoting addictive platforms. They knew their apps could contribute to anxiety, depression, and body image issues, but did not share those risks while prioritizing profits. The recent historic verdict underscores the consequences of those decisions. Now, Morgan & Morgan is stepping up to hold these platforms accountable for the harm they caused. Click the link in my bio to take a short quiz, as you may be entitled to a potential recovery of over $1,000. Now back to the show. And another important point to make, this other individual who had some sort of pro-trans shirt on, which I agree, I also think they should be allowed to wear if they want to wear, whatever. Not hurting anybody. You want to have your silly opinions, it's a free country. But the one that actually snitched on them and reported them to the security and said, oh, well, their shirt is offensive to me. Like, that person is an absolute joke to me. They belong in a padded room. I'm sorry, but if you are so fragile that a shirt asserting genetic reality is somehow offensive to you or makes you feel unsafe or anything like that, then the problem is you. Like, you're a joke at that point. And the other funny thing about this is they don't seem to realize that the more they push back and crack down and call the people who advocate for female sports like bigots and hateful and say, one of the coaches crashed out recently at a press conference, they only pour more fuel onto this fire, and they draw more and more energy into this culture war conversation surrounding the WNBA that really, all of it is unnecessary because it's resulting from a series of unforced errors by the league and its major participants that have invited this protest or this counter messaging because they feel that people feel the need to support people like Sophie Cunningham, who were attacked for speaking out just with basic common sense in a very decent and nuanced way that wasn't hateful at all. And then they also don't have a simple policy that says only females can compete in the WNBA. That would just end this whole conversation forever. They so far at least have not adopted such a policy, and if they did, would face a revolt from huge swaths of their players and coaches who are so ultra woke that even as professional female sports participants and coaches, they don't believe in the concept of female sports. It's like a absolutely crazy situation. And the final other point here as well that I find hilarious is that they keep this is just one example, but we saw other people berate at a Seattle game, berate participants or audience members who are wearing these XXXY t-shirts, and even minors getting yelled at and screamed at by grown men over them. The funniest thing about this is that it is, if their goal is to silence these bigots or make it clear that we don't stand for the hate, it's like you are leading to with this sort of unhinged response, rather than just ignoring the t-shirts if you don't like them, which is how a sophisticated adult function, not even a sophisticated adult, just a functioning adult, how they approach existing in public with people with different views. I can't tell you how many times with the different places I've lived, I have been in public and noticed somebody wearing some sort of article of clothing that espouses a political message that I really dislike or find incredibly cringe or find just absolutely maddening and annoying. And I just roll my eyes and then keep my business to myself. It's really not that hard to just exist. And I would say the same thing, by the way, as if this other person had a trans athletes belong shirt or something delusional like that in terms of elite women's sports that's delusional. You shouldn't go up and scream at them either. They shouldn't be kicked out or forced to cover it up. It's like, just keep it moving. That's how, and so I'm always struck by how fragile people are and how just little resilience there is to simply coexist with different opinions, mostly in one direction, but not exclusively. However, the funniest thing about all of this backlash is it serves only to promote this brand. This brand, XXXY, has to have seen the biggest boom in sales and they've gotten so much media attention that I'm speculating here, but I'm almost certain that all this hate and backlash towards people wearing their shirts is the best thing that could possibly happen for this company. Because now they get primetime Fox News broadcasts all about their shirts. I bet you hundreds, if not thousands of people went and looked up those shirts last night watching Laura Ingraham and bought some. So the haters who are trying to like protest this bigotry or whatever are literally just fueling the attention and driving the business model of this company. So it's absolutely hilarious. Now, the WNBA has put out a statement about this. I'll read the update from USA Today. WNBA says fans, quote, should not have been asked to cover up XXXY shirts. In a statement provided to USA Today Sports, the WNBA said the fans shouldn't have been made to cover up their clothing. The WNBA is aware of interactions at last night's game in Atlanta in which fans were asked by league security to cover their shirts, a league spokesperson said. This should not have happened. The Atlanta Dream provided an additional statement to USA Today Sports that said, quote, the Atlanta Dream believes in creating a safe and inclusive environment for everyone. Unfortunately, at last night's game, WNBA security took actions that fell short of that standard. At no point were Dream personnel involved in the decisions made by WNBA security. So that's an important point of clarification, that apparently it wasn't the home team, the Atlanta Dream, wasn't their decision to do this. They're not responsible for it. And the WNBA is saying that this was a mistake, which I think they probably need to clear up this with some sort of directive informing security at all the games that they are not, in fact, going to crack down on people or eject people from games for wearing shirts that assert genetic reality. How is that a thing? How is that a question that was ever up for correction in the first place? That's what I would like to know. I mean, I guess I'm glad that they are, announcing that they made a mistake. And I would hope that they would take some sort of step to rectify this and make it up to that young girl and her mother who paid money for these tickets and who had such an unpleasant experience. I would hope the WNBA would reach out to them to apologize, offer them, free box tickets to an upcoming game or something to make it right, because it's really absolutely absurd that this happened. And then they should be very clear about what their policies are and clarify that you are not, in fact, some sort of hateful bigot who must be ejected from the facilities if you wear a shirt that says XXXY. It doesn't even say something horrific, slurs, curse words. And it's not even, unfortunately, it is sort of a political statement, just given that this has become a political issue, but it's not even like a super overtly political statement. Not that those are even banned on t-shirts, I don't believe. So the whole thing is an absolute disaster. It's an absolute mess, but it's one largely of the WNBA's own making. Obviously there's been this massive outpouring of conservative media attention to the WNBA, and they are leaning into this because it's the kind of culture war drama that I think just plays well for Republicans and conservatives, because the liberal or institutional position on it is so absurd, and it's getting disproportionate attention, obviously. And it's not the most important thing happening in the entire universe or world, but it's so bizarre, and it would be so easy to fix by just adopting basic common sense and ending this insane backlash against people who believe female sports are for females. That's my take on the situation, guys, but you will all have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you aren't yet. Do hit the like button and consider becoming a channel member. It's the best way to support my work. I call out the far left and the far right, and I try to just be an independent voice in these crazy and hyper-partisan times. That's not always the best business model, though, so I do need support from viewers like you. Just hit the join button or click the link in the pinned comment to become a channel member now. And with that, guys, don't forget to check out the survey from Morgan & Morgan, linked down below as well, and we will be back with more real soon.